This play, even though it is written by the former president of the Czech Republic, by this great humanitarian, by this person who has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize several times, by this kind of a giant of philosophy and human rights and all that, this play is a farce. It's a very, very funny farce. The interesting thing is that this is the second play by Václav Havel that I have directed. So for me, what is really interesting is that this is kind of closing a circle for me a little bit. I directed my first Havel play when I was very freshly here in the United States as an undergraduate student at San Francisco State University, a few months before he becomes a president. I am ready to start rehearsing for the second play by Václav Havel in Portland, Oregon, more than 20 years later, being a chair of a theater department, and Václav Havel dies. Right? So for me, that has kind of an interesting journey there. It is, of course, a play that has a very strong political undertone, and I think that this is one of the things that Havel was always interested in as a playwright, as a person, as a politician, as a philosopher, and so on, as to how does language function. It is a play that is revealing an individual in a world that doesn't make sense. Yet, within the world itself, if we assume that that absurd world is a real world, all the absurdity within that world itself actually makes sense. Right? So the nonsense in the language and in the situations in this play is actually governed by very logical rules. So that is an interesting puzzle. The logic of causality is broken as well. Yet at the same time, as a whole, it all makes sense again. I would like to present a play that really demonstrates the magic of the theater. Because Václav Havel, and again this is something not to be forgotten, he was a man of the theater. He started his career as a stagehand in a theater in Prague. He was working in all sorts of small little theaters in all sorts of capacities, so he sort of understands the mechanics of the theater. I also think that this play really is speaking to the alienation of the individual in the world that doesn't make sense. And I would like the audience to kind of leave the theater on some level kind of bedazzled by the by the sheer amount of scattered information and action that happens on stage to the character. This play is called The Increased Difficulty of Concentration. So, you know, I would like to create a certain sense of, wow, what did just transpire?